Howdy, Eggs. Well, I just spent a couple minutes talking to myself because I forgot there's one more button I had to push. So that was fun. Don't worry, you didn't miss anything important. All right, so this is going to be the first Cull and Good Bull of the Bonfire 2023 season. And we'll start with a little bit of a review of some of what has happened in the off season. Bonfire wise, they're going to be on the same property for burn. They have gotten a new property, access to a new property for cut. And as you're going to see, this is going to be unlike anything you've seen for quite some time. It's a vastly different set of woods and circumstances. It's got terrain. It's just something else. It's pretty outstanding. So, and unique, and it's going to be memorable. So, they got that going on. In the meantime, you probably already know if you follow the gallery that the gallery was hacked on July 27th, late July 27th into the 28th. The server itself was hacked. I find that a lot of the assumptions, I guess, for what hacked means these days is that the Facebook account got hacked or the Instagram got hacked and somebody got a username and password. No. Somebody was able to hack into the server and delete all 13,856 images off the server. Plus, most of the data, all of the images had been analyzed. Computer vision is what they call it, scanned for the content of the images. And so that we could do this really awesome search for the subject and the content of the images and all kinds of crazy stuff. And it's all wiped out. So since July 27th, I've been working on rebuilding the site, switching the platform that it was built on. In the interest of time, I'd gone with a WordPress and just heavily customized it. And it was one of the automatic WordPress updates that opened up a hole. Somebody got in, wiped it out. So rebuilding it from scratch, was able to identify all of the images that were published to the gallery and was able to, over the past 6 weeks, recover most of the posts, pages, etc. I've got all of the gallery, collections recovered. And so at this point, I just need to re-export all of the images, regenerate them all for the web, and all of their thumbnails and all of that stuff, and get those pushed up to what's called a content delivery network. We're going that route now to keep the images separate from the code. So if somebody gets into the code, they can't get to the images, and vice versa. And then, finish reprogramming the site. So been hard at work at that for a while. I think I'm coming down to the end, and pretty soon you'll be able to go back onto the gallery online and browse around through. At this point, I believe this is going to be the 14th season of Bonfire that's in the gallery. So, but it in the process, it's been fun to go back to the beginning. It's as much fun as recovering from a complete and total wipeout of everything that you've worked so hard to make happen. As much fun as that can be. I've enjoyed it. So, this is the first photo that was ever published in the gallery. This is before I even knew that I'd be taking photos to share with people at Load Site. And of course, because that's where I'm from, and I was just playing with the camera. But so it's been fun to go back and look at some of these photos that from over the years and remember some of the, the characters in all of the 2010 season. I believe there were, 276 photos from all of the 2010 season. I started near the end of cut. Now we'll get 276 images, more than that every month, that get published. Well, let me see if I can find this character for you. See if you recognize this guy. Can you believe that? That right there, that is, how old would he be here? 2 years old. This is 2 years old Ace. 2010. And as we'll see, he does not look like this anymore. Ace is in his 15th year, but yeah, so it's been fun to go back into these photos from so many years ago. This is what my gray hat used to look like, right there. Yeah, nice refreshers. So anyway, so that's the process. We're getting the site redone. By we, I mean me. And I'm in a hurry to do it because, as we're going to see, there's a lot of motivating stuff that's going on in 2023. I'm particularly motivated about what the Corps has been putting together. I honestly believe it is a product of their leadership. And I think, I'll just speak for myself and say I think it's a product of the leadership of the Corps from the Commandant's office level. I've been very impressed with his approach to just life and to the Corps and to Texas A&M and who owns traditions, the students. And I think that has really empowered the Corps to challenge themselves to do, some pretty extraordinary work. So, hats off to Michaelis. I'm glad he's here. But the point being, there's a lot of outstanding stuff happening, and I want to get to a point where we can start sharing all that stuff on the website. And so before we get into what you're probably waiting for, I do want to take a moment and go back to another photo that I found. How much do we lose? Y'all, this is fantastic. All right. So, gosh, I hope you heard things I said about Dwight. Who's on the chat? Who's still on the chat that's been around? When did the audio cut out? Somebody tell me in the chat when the audio went out. What was the last thing anybody heard me say? Hey, first one of the season, folks. So, could be worse. My site could be hacked and somebody could have deleted all my images. Oh, wait. All right. So, I'm not exactly sure when the audio went out. I know it was there at the beginning, and then I got a message that said it wasn't there. So, this is going to be fun. I'm going to have a lot of editing to do tomorrow. Just in case, not knowing how much was missed, real quick, we'll recap. 12 fires. Junior Red Pots were out there in advance of Red Pots getting back together, working on the 12 fires place. Quick, in case the audio was missed on this, thank you, Dwight, for everything. We wouldn't have Bonfire without Dwight. I went off on that for more than a few minutes, so I hope we got some audio on that. So Dwight, son of a gun, and 2023, 12 fires now, Chief Cut. We are back to where we were. Chief Cut is sort of the first thing where participants are coming out there, and this is the crew and outfit level leadership. And it's a good opportunity for me to do a little bit of practicing on, what my setup is, where the paths are, where the different, where load side is, where the parking is going to be, and all this. And immediately motivated by this hill. This is the entry hill that everybody's got to walk down. You're going to see in these photos that this terrain is different and very new. It is not pasture land and flat prairie. It is near the river. It is going to be a dirt mine by the time, after Bonfire is done with it. There's a motivated former student who also built Bonfire in his time, who is overseeing or owns the mine. And so Bonfire is going to be able to go out there and clear cut what he's going to end up mowing down anyway. Red pot log up at the top. I know I took a photo later in the day here at Chief Cut where you can get a real picture for how big that log is. It is massive. I'm also very much looking forward to what this setup is light wise, where sunrise is going to be coming from. And if I'm doing my math right, later into the season, the sun should be coming up over the back of this hill as we move into fall. But you can see there's some pretty heavy terrain. Here's a pelt. The eagle-eyed observer will note that is an pelt yellow pot. So a pelt got a yellow pot. Talking about things that to catch up on from over the off season. A pelt got a yellow. So that's a pretty big development. Even at Chief Cut, there's the, your typical yellow pots and butt pots call. So, um, again, just playing around with, learning me just kind of where they're going to be making these calls from and what kind of angles I'm going to be able to get. And I'm loving this terrain. This terrain is going to be really almost worth how painful it is to walk around. It is not fun to walk around this terrain, but this is the sort of thing that I'm looking forward to all year. This is not the only such hill. So in cut site, there's a lot of angles like this. So that's going to be fun. There's Ace, and a word about Ace. Ace is old. 15 years old. We saw photos of him earlier. Again, I don't know if my audio was working at the time, but in playing around with trying to recover the website after it was taken down, I looked into old photos, recovering these old photos from local storage, and that had me looking back at old photos of lots of things, including Ace. Ace was 2 years old when I first started taking photos. And by then, Ace had been coming out to Bonfire for 2 years. He was coming out when he was a few months old. Well, now Ace is 15, and everywhere he walks, when he stops, his hind legs go to shaking. He's getting much smaller. My wife put him on that raw food stuff, and that's got him shrinking, and that's good. And you can actually touch him now without him yelping, and that's nice. Here's the yellows going back to their chief buddies. But in any event, Ace is getting old. And so, for Chief Cut, this is of course going to be the first event that I'm waking up at early in the morning to go out, but I sort of wake up early in the morning anyway. It was not unusual for me to wake up and come out to, Chief Cut, or wake up in the morning and go get my coffee and go to my office. That's not unusual. Just getting my morning started in my pajamas with a cup of coffee, nothing looking unusual to anybody. Ace usually stays in bed and sleeps and sleeps and sleeps. And I'm doing the same thing I do every day. And then I left my clothes in my office. And, of course, my camera stuff is in my office and everything. And I'm going to get dressed without him seeing, and then I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave Ace behind. The first Chief Cut that he has been old enough to come to Bonfire to, that he wasn't going to be able to make it because I was going to leave him behind because he's getting old and I worry about him in the heat and all this. So I'm up for maybe 5 minutes and Ace starts scratching at the door. This is the Junior Ed Pots, by the way, waiting for everybody to get together to give them a quick how-to on the first tree. Just a quick recap of expectations for calls and all these sorts of things. This is Mason. He's a Bonfire Legacy, actually. And it's nice. It is really nice to see Bonfire Legacy now more often coming to build Bonfire as students. it's lending to that culture that I remember. I came to A&M to build bonfire. That was it, and you're starting to see that again. So, gosh, what year? What year? Yeah, 98. That's a bonfire 98 legacy. One of our green pots is a bonfire 95 legacy. I haven't forgotten the Ace story. Don't worry, we'll get back to Ace. We'll leave you hanging. But we got to keep moving too. I mean, we got to go to bed. So some you're going to see a lot of with these woods. Again, as I said, it's very different terrain. Okay. For the last 3 years, bonfire has been on overgrown native Texas grassland prairie. Where we are is the Blackland Prairie, Post Oak Savanna region of Texas. Predominantly should be, without human interference, should be dominated by grass, not trees. Trees do not belong where we are. And so, a lot of what you're seeing is post oak, which is a tree that you're only supposed to have one post oak per every 1 to 3 square miles. That's the way nature would prefer it. And we've been on pieces of land one piece of land for the last 3 years that is part of that post oak savanna blackland prairie, but it's that part that settlers have come in and put out fires and put up fences and brought in trees that aren't from here and all this stuff. And so it's overgrown forests of post oak, which doesn't want to be in a forest anyway. And that's part of where post oak has a reputation for being a fickle plant that dies. People they say nasty things about post oak because it only gets so big and it dies. Well, the reason why it's getting so big and dying is because we're making it live in populations that is not normal. They should be all by themselves for miles and miles and miles. All that said, that's not where we are now. Now we're in Brazos Bottomland. The river runs through this property, the Brazos River. It's in, sort of what will eventually be an oxbow. And it's easy to see why this is going to be a dirt farm. A lot of sediment and a lot of water, a lot of moisture with that river there. It is cool down here when it's hot other places. And I know, to anybody who was out there working last weekend, Chief Cut weekend, it didn't seem cool, but coming from in town and clay yards with decimated Bermuda grass and sidewalks and everything, it was very cool in these woods, especially when you got down close to the river. But, all I wish to say, you're dealing with a very different terrain here. You're already seeing the hills that we pointed out, the woods are this. Here's another one. So many of these trees are hackberry, right? And look at the size of the chips, the chunks that are knocked out of this tree here. I mean, look at this. You've got chips that came off that were about the size of the axe head, right? And that's what hackberry is. It's a junk tree. It's a complete garbage tree. I hear in other parts of the country it's a wonderful tree, but around these parts it's a garbage tree, and it doesn't do anybody any good unless what you really, really want more than anything in the world is a tree to land on your a tree to land on your roof. or your power lines and take your power out. That is what a hackberry is good for. And these woods are full of hackberry. And so what people are already learning, and those of you who were there know when you learn this, and I'm not going to get into it. If you were there, you know when you learned it. But people are already learning that these hackberries, they're a lighter tree. They're less dense. They're less hard. They don't have a lot of heft to them. And then you see, too, vines. There is poison ivy. I should point that out. There's a ton of poison ivy. But there's creeping vines with big, thick, tendrils going all the way to the ground that are having their way with these trees when they come down. So the calculus of where you set your wedge and when you go from the front wedge to the back wedge, that's been developed over the last 3 years on what should be pasture land with a bunch of hard, dense, heavy post oak trees that have so much weight that you set your front wedge, you set your back wedge, the tree is going to go, and it's going to go where you want it to go, and it's going to pull every vine down with it in the direction you want it to go. That doesn't happen with these hackberries. And people are starting to figure that out already. So here's the core. I see the comment here that says that that my audio cut out right when I started talking about Dwight. So nobody heard anything I said about Dwight. That's okay. We'll talk about Dwight just a little bit when we get into right before we jump to first cut. That'll be a nice time to cut to talking about Dwight. And no, I still haven't forgotten to finish the story about Ace. I'm sure there'll be a photo of him later that will remind us. So again, look, another hackberry. Hackberries everywhere. But notably, there are some elm trees in here. And we're going to see some of those. And there's pockets of oak. There's a substantial pocket of pecan. So I'm really curious and looking forward to this year's burn just from a scientific perspective. I'm just used to post oak burning, so I'm really intrigued by what. I know what hackberry is like when it burns. It's garbage burning as it is just living. I don't know if I mentioned, but hackberries suck. But pecan, can you imagine? There's more pecan than cedar. So this is going to be great. One of the benefits, though, to hackberry is awful, stupid, and ridiculous and garbage a tree it is that in cutting so well, it's going to make it much easier to accumulate these trees. Once everybody figures out how to be more diligent about looking at vines, freeing up as many vines as they can reach, allowing for bigger fall path radiuses and whatnot. It's no longer as simple as there's my front wedge. Nobody get in front of the front wedge. Your fall path now is 180 to 270 degrees with these trees. But once you learn to navigate that and account for it, I think people are going to have a whole hell of a lot of fun mowing down these hackberries. because I mean, hell, you can get a lot of work done with. I I saw one group, and I think I took photos. Sometimes I just want to sit there and be present. I just want to look and observe and just shoot this shit and hang out. Um, and so I might not, but I think I did take photos of one group cutting down a hackberry with a splitting maul, and it worked. This is sort of an example of I like to try and layer things and kind of have a photo that expresses different things happening on different layers, but one that I'm probably not going to use because I know, and most people know when you look at this, that those layers are far apart. Nobody is near that axe. I mean, it's cool. I think I achieved what I was trying to do here, which is to represent the relaxing, working, hauling off, topping. There's topping going on in this part of the tree. There's topping going off on this part of the tree. But I don't think I can use that photo because you shrink that down to a thumbnail and it looks like somebody's standing right in front of an axe. I don't know. I'll think about it. It's one of our juniors getting a little calisthenics in. Good. Got to stay warm. Got to stay fresh. Back in the Pelt Woods. This is another thing that I'm going to be interested to see how it develops over the course of the season. Right now, this looks like a nice low trail winding through the woods. But I am almost completely certain that this is a wash. And when the rains start coming again, I'm pretty sure that's going to fill up. There's a lot of high ground leading down to it. And one of my goals over the course of the season is going to be to try and do work, representing what the students are doing, of course, and taking pictures of what they're doing. But I'm also going to make an effort to really kind of represent the ground that they're working on because it is so unique and challenging. And I don't have to even have a picture with students even in the frame for you to look at this terrain that they're working on and connect the dots in your mind that, dang, people are walking on this. They're cutting trees down on this. They're moving these trees in this land. The land itself is going to be a big part of the story in the images this year. So I am going to focus on that. Now here, I told you I'd have a photo. This is the red pot log stump. And this is another one I'm going to try and come back and find some. I don't think these are the best representations of how big it is. It gives you an idea of how big it is, but I will be coming back to that stump over the course of the season because it is so freaking massive. And you'll see a photo when we get to first cut. There's a photo of Senior Head Stack standing on red pot log that also paints a pretty good picture of just how big that thing is. So we're getting towards the end of Chief Cut here. This is everybody moving out. B2. I'm really motivated by what has happened to B2. Junior Red Pot from the core this year is out of B2. B2, nobody had seen at Bonfire in a bit. And last year, all of a sudden, B2 came back. And, their butt pot was a piss head. And he got them squared away and he got them coming out. And over the off season, I learned, and this was amazing to me, that B2 was actually on the chopping block, on the contracting the outfits plan from 2 years ago or whatever it was. So last year, B2 was just inside they were the last outfit that didn't get disbanded or what have you. There was talk of, let me see if I'm remembering my numbers right. There was talk about contracting by 8 outfits or something like that. Not with this commandant, the previous commandant. The previous commandant was talking about contracting by 8 outfits, I believe is the deal. And he was eventually convinced to only cut 4 outfits. And B2 was the 5th. So in limiting it to only 4 outfits, B2 was saved. And so this was an outfit that was on the cusp. And then the next year, B2 came out and built Bonfire under the leadership of their butt pot, who was a pisshead. And by the end of the year, I think they were the 2nd most outstanding outfit in the entire corps. They had the best retention in the corps. So you had an outfit that was excellent. It was a challenging outfit. It exceeded all expectations for everything throughout the year. And they built Bonfire. And I have certainly talked about this with many folks, especially former students from the Corps Cadets. B2 has become exemplary of what an outfit can achieve when in the fall they commit themselves to a common objective and an uncommon experience in building Bonfire. The old company line that Bonfire is a distraction and Bonfire is extra work, it does not hold up in the least. B2 is a perfect example that committing to Bonfire can actually make your outfit better. And for the competitively minded, committing to Bonfire can make your outfit better than the other outfits. So I'm very, very motivated and impressed about B2. Happy to see them out again and doing well. So and with butt pots and piss pots, that's that is good to see. Again, for the uninitiated, a butt pot is generally, they're supposed to be, for Surge Butt, a junior, and they're supposed to be kind of in charge of the outfit in Bonfire scenarios. And the piss pot is sort of the potential butt pot in development. Now, this is everybody taking a little lunch break at Chief Cut and then getting back out into the woods. And at this point, sun was starting to get down to where we were, starting to get hot. Ace was starting to drag ass a little bit. And so that was a good opportunity for us to head out. This is the last shot on my way out from Chief Cut. So back to the Ace thing. Ace is 15. He's been coming out since he was a few months old. He's getting old. His legs shake. I'm going out to Chief Cut, not doing anything unusual before I leave, even have my clothes hid in my office so he can't see me when I get ready to leave. I'm premeditating leaving Ace behind because I just can't imagine him even wanting to go. And so I'm just going to sneak out. And I'm not up for 5 minutes before Ace starts going crazy in the room, wakes up, scratching at the door. So I go to open the door, get him out of there so he doesn't wake my wife up. And he will not leave me anywhere I move in the house. He won't let me out of his sight. And I realize that Ace knows what time of year it is. You know, I've always had suspicions that he kind of knew, but out of nowhere, I'm planning on leaving, but I'm not doing anything different as far as he's concerned. And he knows now's the time. So even though he's old and tired and getting skinny and he don't see so good and he don't hear so good and he don't get around so good, he was not going to let me leave this morning, this Chief Cut morning. He was not going to let me leave without him. And so I didn't leave without him. So we had to leave at lunch because I couldn't stay all day with him out there. But this is a dog that, holy moly, he was built for this thing, man. What a great dog. So I don't want to be a downer here, but if you liked seeing Ace, you like, seeing him out in the woods and you're going to be in town, for any cuts or whatever, maybe come out to the woods because he's 15. I don't know how much longer he can con me into taking him out into this heat. And so anyway, God, I love that dog. What a great dog. And now before we get into cut class, let me go back to where the audio cut out earlier. We were able to figure out when the audio cut out. It was right when I started talking about Dwight. So very quickly, I'm going to recap what I said about Dwight, and sort of, it was suggested that, and it's okay that it was suggested that some people didn't know who Dwight was. So this is Dwight. Dwight was he was a part of Bonfire going back to 1994. And in 1994, the Red Pots came to Dwight and his wife, Nora, because they saw that he had a bunch of equipment out in his, in front of his house. And of course, Bonfire is always looking for things that Bonfire can break. And so they went and asked Dwight if he would be interested in letting them use some of his equipment. And Dwight was of the mind that his equipment, Dwight knows what he's got. He's got old stuff. He's got stuff that's breaking down. And so he told the Reds, you don't want any part of this stuff. It's not going to be helpful to you. You guys are Aggies. You've got access to all this stuff. You're going to be better off not touching this stuff. And they asked him a few times, and he kept believing that there's no way I could be of any help to you. But in 94, that's the year where Stack started to lean. And so there was this emergency. Let's get together. What's the plan? What are we going to do? It was only 2 weeks before burn. They pulled Stack down intentionally. and then rebuilt the thing over the course of 2 weeks. So when Dwight saw that happening, Dwight figured, well, I guess you could use me. And so Dwight went out in 94 and he never left. Dwight stayed with Bonfire through the 90s, through 99. And when we started building Bonfire again off campus, there was Dwight. He was there to help and give everything he had: equipment, time, knowledge, ideas, root beers. He called them bonfire beers. You want a bonfire beer? And that was his way of reinforcing, you don't drink beer out here. You drink a bonfire beer, and that's a root beer. He was just such a generous man who was so full of ideas. There was no situation where Dwight wouldn't show up within an instant and say, now what you need to do here, and run you off a list of all the different things that you could do in any situation. And it is an absolute fact that Bonfire would not be where it is today. Absolute, unequivocal fact. Bonfire would not be where it is without Dwight. When Deads would come back, who hadn't been at Bonfire in a while, and they would come back quite often, they would express surprise and relief and bemusement and laughter and joy and stories that, oh my gosh, you guys have Dwight. How cool is that? And that's just something that Dwight gave freely. He saw Bonfire was in need, and he gave. And if you're watching this stream, it's because most likely you're following a link from social media on Instagram or Facebook where I assume you're following or at least seeing the links. So you would have possibly seen what I posted last week or earlier this week, that Dwight passed away. Over the weekend, it was on Saturday. He had an incident, and he passed away. And many generations came to tell Dwight goodbye. I was there. Some people from my years were there. Bonfire lost a legend, a truly great and generous and wonderful man, who solved 1,000 problems a minute before you even recognized one. And we're going to miss him, and we love him. But as long as we're able to look out and see a bonfire being built, well, then he hasn't gone far. Because Bonfire today, like I said, is truly in existence and possible, and has come as far as it has because of everything that Dwight gave. So we love you, Dwight. And I'm sure there will be a Dwight log this year. And I'm sure that many people will come to swing on Dwight log and tell stories and all that. So, stay tuned for that. I believe that's going to happen. It's not my decision. I don't get to say what happens, but I would not be surprised if that's what happens, and I look forward to it. So back to, that's Dwight. To answer the question, that is Dwight. So back to 2023. We've made it through the little summer meeting at 12 Fires, Chief Cut. So we've got cut class at the Dixie Chicken. And now cut class is actually 3 cut classes because it's happening at the Dixie Chicken. And so spaces not the big, it is not the Grove on campus. So cut class is divided into 3 sessions, held at the back of the chicken, appropriately decorated, of course. And cut class is what it always was: a quick recap and introduction of everybody. Junior red pots, brown pots, green pots, senior red pots, all up at front, introducing themselves, giving people a quick understanding of who the characters are, who you need to be listening to. There is no way, if you spend every year of your college experience taking the opportunity to build bonfire, and soaking up every moment that you have available building bonfire, you're still not going to learn everything that there is to learn. So cut class is not about, throwing the book at you and giving you a test on the other end. The most important lessons of cut class are getting an understanding of, this is what this leadership position looks like. This is what this one looks like. This is an outline of their responsibilities and what they do, and who you need to be listening to for what. And then a quick kind of summary of some of the basic behaviors. Cutting a tree, again, you're not going to learn the specific techniques of swinging an axe. What you're learning at cut class is where not to be when somebody's swinging an axe, and what signals you'll have to indicate where you should be, and who you need to be listening to get an idea of where you need to be. Who's going to be where when it's time to move a log, all that kind of stuff. And we see here, look at that. So the noise, the baseline noise correction is sort of getting rid of those dots. But it looks like I might have some sensor stuff going on. See? Real quick. Boom. There it is. So I really love my D750. I'm very happy with it. But it has been put through the ringer coming out for all these seasons of building bonfire. And it is not a cozy environment to have a camera in. So it looks like I'm going to have to start the early stages of buckling down for possibly getting a new camera. I'm not looking forward to that. Which does bring up this point. Visit patreon.com/DionCGallery. This all happens because people contribute as patrons to the gallery to keep up with stuff like camera sensors that are starting to get spots on them. That kind of stuff. I stretch the contributions as much as possible. I really like old equipment, lenses, I should say. I like new cameras. I like old lenses. I feel better about bringing them out into the dirt and crawling around on the ground to get just the right shot and all that kind of stuff, and taking them out in the rain. I feel better about doing that with an old lens, but also old lenses are great. And I feel like they have character to them that new lenses don't, but also old lenses are more affordable. And so I can get more and stretch the contributions that people make to the gallery at patreon.com/DeonCGallery. I can stretch those a little farther. That way. This is up in the parking lot for First Cut. We got Lechner, FHK, Kruger, one of the Browns, Kruger, Thor, Lechner again, a Pelt, Lechner again. Spoiler alert, I got a good bit of Lechner up in the parking area in the pre First Cut scene. Here they are. They were waving a flagpole, and I think they were singing the national anthem because one of the senior Red Pots is actually a lieutenant in the Marines and had a weekend off for Labor Day and came back in his, in his role as a senior Red Pot, concurrently with being a lieutenant in the Marines. He came back from the East Coast, where he's currently stationed, to come to cut. And so they waved a flag and sang the national anthem. Leggett, FHK. I hope I got you can kind of get an idea of how far back all this parking is going. There were a lot of cars out there, and this was a long, long road, and it was lined with cars. This is Load Pot playing with Ace. If you'll recall from the very beginning of this stream, and looking at just a couple photos from the very, 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 very beginning of the gallery, this is a much older dog than 2010. Walton doing work. I think work has been happening since 2013. They play a little song. Work. I'm not going to say any of the lyrics. Yeah, it's a catchy little ditty. And now the axe box is working their way down towards the trailer down at the bottom of that hill. You're going to see that hill again here in a second, I believe. Sharing breakfast. That's generous. Powdered donuts. So there's that hill that I was talking about, and that we saw from Chief Cut. There's Red Pot Log. And yeah, it's a few shots down from here. We're going to see one of the Reds standing on Red Pot Log. I'm really looking forward to this terrain this year. I said it already. I'm going to say it again. So everybody's heading down to the trailers to get their morning modi and get out into the woods. Kruger carrying their box. There it is. Look at the size of that red pot log. Oh, good grief. I think if I'm figuring this right, I think they had 3 or 4 classes of red pots come back to work on that log, to work on cutting that log down. That's just wild. Schumacher. You see so many cars that, again, this is a very long road that they park down, and they're already parking on the other side of it. This is from the bottom. I'm going to try this again this weekend. This is just the stragglers coming up over the hill. This weekend, I'm going to try and be at the bottom of the hill before everybody starts heading down and get, ideally in my mind's eye, a sea of humanity coming over the top of the hill. First cut, there's always a quick sort of cut class again for anybody who might have missed it. Same introductions. There's our Marine. Yes, he's head civilian. Yes, he's a Marine. He was a non-reg out of Hart who did what is that? PLC, OCS, whatever that program is. Not an uncommon thing, right? Anywhere, but one of my favorite people of all time was a non-reg at Texas A&M who went that route, became a hard charging Marine, Colonel Sockleben. God, he was outstanding. He was so motivating. We lost Colonel Sockleben this summer too, but he was a bull in the Corps. After he retired, dedicated Marine, dedicated family man, dedicated Aggie, just an outstanding guy. And I had always thought that he was in the Corps Cadets, but his daughter married one of my best friends, one of my gray pot buddies from Bonfire in 03 and 04. And she told me some years ago, surprised the heck out of me, that he was a non-reg who went the PLC OCS route and became a commissioned Marine officer. So Colonel Sockleben, Google him. You will find he has been written about in books. I believe he is part of some portion of the Marine training. Some of his leadership decisions were considered exemplary, and no surprise. Anyway, Marines, non-reg Marines. Here, Reagan, one of our greens. That's that Bonfire legacy I was talking about, 95. Father was class in 95. Bonfire motivated. And then here she is. Everybody getting their schooling, paying close attention. Good stuff. And then they're off to the woods. Now, I'm have learned a little bit from this last weekend that I'm going to apply on this coming weekend, where what we see here is half, and there's already people that have wound down this path, which, like I said, this is what I am pretty sure is a wash that is going to fill up with water at some point. But people have already gone down this way. The core is in advance of all of them, and so there's a mass of people here going this direction, and in this other direction. So let me see if I've got this right. Yeah. The people we saw in the previous photos are way off to this side, wrapping way around here and going back. And I feel like it was like a mile walk back that way. And then there's an equal number here. We've already got crews that have gone down this way, out of frame, way out this way. So what I'm trying to say is I want to get that picture. See, we see more here. The people heading down this way. So next week I'm going to try and better position to see if it's possible to get both sides of the fork in the road and get a good picture of the scope and volume of humanity that's going out into these woods. It's not like it has been for the last few years where there is one path that everybody is going down. It's going to be a little tricky. I was trying to hustle here and get in a good angle. It was interesting. This brown pot heading back to the back, and in the background, this massive tree behind him. This is one of those elms. I mentioned that there are a lot of elm trees out here too. This is one of those massive elms that's out there. This is K1 coming out this year, which is motivating to see. This was after they had been. We had ended up walking down the wrong. For me, it wasn't the wrong side. I was walking down all the trails, but I don't know if they were following me or what the deal was, but they started their morning out with like a 2-mile hike. Because I mean, how spread out this land is, and how far apart the different areas are. The core was way, way, way off. And so we spent a good long while hiking together trying to find the core. And here we found the core, obviously a little blurry. There's core here. This is a few of the outfits. There's more outfits off to the side over here, back here. I'm hoping that they keep the core in this part of the woods and can spend more time up here on this high ground and get a better picture of, again, the scope of the core. I got to double check with Mason. I asked him if he was keeping track, and he said he was, and I believe he said he walked 15, 16 miles on this first cut. believe we got, I feel like we have more doubles this year than usual. So there's going to be a lot of that for him. Again, with this land being incredibly spread out. I don't know if you can see what I was trying to do here, but I'm hoping I got, maybe is this one it? It's pretty close. I don't know if you can see what it, I'll show you. If you haven't figured it out, I'll show you if I find the right. This has become a bit of a hobby for me. A little technical exercise. It's either this one or this one. I think I like this one. Here's what I was taking a picture of. That's what I'm after right there. So I got a couple to choose from there. This one's pretty good too. Little unintentional self-portrait right there. Yeah, I think I prefer this one. Yep. I think that's going to be it. That's cool. The core woods is where a lot of that pecan was. Core getting it together for a little safety health. Here's your EMT introduction and briefing. Trying to, this land again, mentioned it a few times, is meant to be a dirt farm. They're going to be pulling a lot of, material out. And so they've had bulldozers just crashing through here, making paths and clearing out stuff and moving stuff out of the way that they're going to have to move out of the way anyway, which is great. That has opened up the paths and made it easy to navigate without having to cut your way through to the trees. But in some cases, there are trees that are kind of tucked behind these big piles of pushed over stuff. So there's a little bit of that going on this first weekend. Always nice to have the legacies come out. This would be the first tree. That first tree I caught of the 2023 season. I was kind of hemmed in here with OC for a little bit. Path was this way, and you see they're fallen trees out onto the path. So wait for all those to get finished. So OC got a bunch of picture time. Stopped to see Heart. A lot of first cut is just kind of getting the feel for where the paths are and how I'm going to be able to move around and efficiently. But in the meantime, do try and get some good photos. Now this was another example that everybody got some firsthand experience with. this tree here ultimately, again, bound up with the vines way up in the top. And again, because this isn't a hackberry, but it is sort of typical of the trees that are down here. It's soft. It's not heavy. It's not dense. So those vines were able to have their way with the tree, and that tree did not go on its front wedge or its back wedge. It actually went completely sideways. And, if you looked at the vines, there just wasn't anything you could do about it. Here's Hart's favorite hobby. Sniff snuff. Ugh. God. I was explaining to Sean here that after we left from here, I told him that, everybody, when they're finished being a leader, they go through this phase where they try and figure out, all right, get recalibrated to life, what it is, what is it that I'm supposed to do with myself now? And, and think about the things that you're going to miss when you're in charge. And then, when you're no longer in charge, but, also take some time to think about the things. All right, let's figure out how this is at least a little bit of a good thing, that this is not part of my life every day now. And, I remember when I was done and kind of doing that accounting, like, all right, let's figure out how it's a good thing. Because it doesn't feel like a good thing, but let's figure out how it's a good thing that I'm not in charge of this anymore. I'm not a student anymore. And the first thought that came to my mind, and I'm not kidding, and this is what I told Sean, the first thought that came to my mind that was unequivocally, unconditionally a good thing for me was that I didn't have to do sniff snuff with people anymore. I mean, as a leader, people, seems like they want you to do sniff snuff with them, and you can't look at them and go, no, I'm not doing that with you. They're sharing this goofy thing, and usually it's a celebration for having fell a tree or something like that, and you don't want to tell them that you don't want any part of that, and you shouldn't. And so the only times I ever did sniff snuff in my life was celebrating with people. And that was on the top of my list of things that, all right, as much as I'm going to miss some of this other stuff, I am not going to miss sniff snuff. And I don't think I've done it one time since. In Leggett Woods, I believe I believe this is where I stopped and saw them cutting a tree, working on a tree with a splitting maul. Little experimentation with some old-timey acoustic saws. This is the acoustic chainsaw. My kids are already asking when they're going to get to come out again. They cut with Leggett. So they're looking forward to their next trip out this year. All of them 6 years old the first time they went to, their first cut. Except for the boy. It's not because he's a boy. it's always on their terms when they're ready and when we know that they're ready. And the others either just didn't. They weren't ready until they were 6, and then the boy took an axe and went outside and cut down a tree to show me that he could do it. And uh, so he was 5 when he went out. This is not the split mall, of course. This is a Fisker's. Man, I remember when Fiskars first started coming out to the woods. I just thought that was a crime. I couldn't believe it. Fiskars. But now they're common. So this is the truck junior who has happened upon this tree that came down. And it looks like I did not get photos of them swinging on. No, it's not done yet. The tree has not come down yet. But they are looking at, this is going to be a massive tree that's about to come down. And it is far bigger than Leggett can carry. And they are sizing up what in the hell is happening here. And of course, it is deads that you have to blame. It's brown pots and dead brown pots that came out to help Leggett, and in the process signed them up for this massive tree. And among the things they're considering right now is how in the hell are we going to get that tree out of there once they're done with it. And there it is. This is the split mall. So, yeah, these woods are so soft that you're actually making progress with a big splitting mall. Granted, it's not how you want to do the whole tree, but it's working. So, this branch here ended up presenting a bit of a problem. Tree put all of its weight on that one branch. Fought coming down for a while. I think I got everybody in the woods. I got all of the crews for first cut except for Lechner. They dominated uh, the pre-woods parking scene. I'm gonna have to get caught up with them in the woods on this weekend. Neely stopped and saw them. Another thing about hackberries is, though they do come down fast, they are more crooked than a post oak. So that is going, stack is going to shape up to be an interesting process dealing with some of these trees as crooked as they are. This is the elusive 3 wedge tree. Like I told them, what the hell am I supposed to do with photos of a tree with 3 wedges on it? But they did eventually get close to consolidating all 3 of those wedges into one massive wedge. And so from Neely Woods to lunch. This is lunchtime, I believe. Kruger lunch, story time, which of course is time to harass somebody trying to tell a story, throwing food at them and whatnot. FHK. And of course, Ace going over to the Mooch. And the core heading out, you know, we've talked about it before. One of the challenges that the core has is so much, and this isn't all the core, not all of the core is leaving, but every weekend, a good portion of the core is going to either have an outfit meeting or outfit pictures or some kind of outfit activity. So they got to use all the time they have in the woods the best they can, because a lot of them, unfortunately, do have to head back. But again, this is only, I don't know, felt like a pretty small fraction of the core ended up going back early, which in some years, the entire core would sometimes leave at lunch. FHK getting some down swinging done towards the front. Believe I caught them moving a log. Did I? Yep. And you see, here's the front, and it does this sweep and bender back here to the back. And I finished up the day with a pelt, so we're almost there. Went to go check on how a pelt was doing, how their new yellow pot was doing. This will also be one of the few days that you see your junior head stack red pot in the woods, because no trucks are being loaded yet, because it's the first day of cut, so nothing's being taken to load site yet. Load site is just getting ready. They're getting that squared away. Trucks aren't leaving. And so if trucks aren't going to stack site, then the head stack junior does not need to be at stack site to unload the trucks. So this first cut is usually first cut and dress log cut. And maybe sometimes family cut will be the only times that you'll see junior head stack walking around in the woods. Cut. Here you get a picture of that terrain, up and up and up. And this is down in that little gully that looks like a trail right now. Again, I'm going to come back here. I mean, you see, as far as this area is concerned, these are practically mountains. Compared to everything else around here. This is the Appalachians. Good as the Smoky Mountains as far as this part of Texas is concerned. Yeah, and I took a couple of FHK on my way out the trail. So that is it. That's it. That only took 2 hours, Eggs. with a little stoppage time for the technical difficulties, but we got there. We got 3 different sessions reviewed. Again, keep your eyes out for the website dion-c.me to slowly begin coming back online over the next week. Recovered, identified what images had been posted there out of the 13,856 images that were published. And that is out of about 200,000 bonfire images that I've taken. We've got 13,856 that were published. And we were able to identify those. I was able to Frankenstein together a lot of the data that was lost. I've got a roadmap towards rebuilding the rest of the data that was lost. But most importantly, we're going to have these images back up where you can see them online. And for the most part, at the same URLs. We're going to, it is being rebuilt so that you'll be able to go to your favorites and your bookmarks and your shared links and find that same content back where it was. But that's going to start rolling out. Hopefully we'll start to see some of that tomorrow. And into next week. And it is normal that it takes about a week or more to clean up these photos, pick out exactly which ones are going to be selected for publishing. So we're pretty much on track for when these photos are going to be published. And so hopefully within a week, pie in the sky, we've got all of the images from the gallery back online by next week, and the images that we've taken so far for 2023 up next week. So fingers crossed on that. Again, patreon.com/DionC gallery if you want to help contribute to these efforts. With this new architecture that is designed to prevent what happened in July from happening again. This new architecture, this new setup, all of the new redundancies and, engineering feats that are going to be attached to this. Just the cost of keeping the website up and the software to support that. It's $160 a month. Hosting, image hosting, content delivery network, all that stuff. And then that's on top of all the other stuff that's involved with keeping the gallery up. So any support you can provide to that is greatly appreciated. And of course, visit Bonfire. Bonfire.ag is the website now. The old studentbonfire.com redirects there. So bonfire.ag, visit Bonfire at Facebook at Bonfire. Twitter, Student Bonfire, Instagram, Student Bonfire. Check out Bottle Cap Alley Trading has got just today released new Bonfire merchandise. Check that stuff out too. And, follow the gallery and everything that's going to be rolling out this year, more podcast episodes and all that stuff. YouTube.com at DionC Gallery, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. I'm done. I'm tired. You're tired too. So let's all get some rest, get motivated for the weekend. Another fighting Texas Aggie victory, building towards an undefeated championship season. Another squared away fighting Texas Aggie bonfire. Looking forward to it. Gig 'em, Ags. Build the hell out of bonfire.